Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Functional Friday. My name is Dr. Kirk here at Premier Chiropractic, and today we're going to dive into the function of the foot as it relates to the running athlete. Okay, so this video is geared towards long distance runners, but it really can be transferred to anyone who does a lot of movement. Okay, you need to be able to absorb force properly through your feet, or the force just gets transferred up the chain to the knee, to the hip, to the low back. So we're just going to talk about the importance of foot function and how we can actually correct some foot tightness issues that you may be having. So we'll dive into that now. Okay, so there's a whole host of things that can go wrong with the foot in terms of running, but I'll just go over some of the most common ones right now. One of the most common ones that we see is a lack of ankle dorsiflexion. Okay, so that's a big fancy word. All it means is the foot coming up like this. Okay, normal ankle dorsiflexion is 10 degrees past neutral. So this would be about neutral. You need to become 10 degrees past neutral in order for you to have what's called quote unquote normal ankle dorsiflexion. If you have limited dorsiflexion, meaning you can't get past that 10 degrees past neutral point, if you can't get to that point, it leads to some compensation patterns. Okay, the first thing that can happen is when you can't get here, your body starts to compensate by twisting your tibia, that's right here, in a little bit, and then you start to kick your foot out. Okay, so it's going to look like, if anyone has ever seen like someone who almost looks duck-footed when they run, kind of kicks their foot out, or someone who seems to have their arches collapse a whole lot. Sometimes that can be because of a lack of dorsiflexion, and then your body finds a strategy to compensate around that. Okay, so if this can't come up and through, your body's going to compensate and say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to start twisting here to actually accomplish that movement. Okay, so the problem with that is, number one, it puts excess forces down on the medial aspect or the middle aspect of the foot here. As you can see, if this is diving down, this is turning in, it puts more force right in here on the middle part of the foot. Also, if this is turning in, this tibia, what does that do to the knee? The knee starts to have rotational forces. Now, your knee is a hinge joint. It likes to work just like a hinge. It likes to go up and down just like that. The moment we start to rotate in that knee, it starts to put a lot of forces into the ligaments, tendons, the joint capsule, and then the muscles as well surrounding there that it doesn't like. So it can lead to some repetitive strain injuries. It can lead to bigger problems down the road as well. Okay, so that's something that we want to avoid. We want everything to stay as biomechanically sound as possible. So, and coming up the chain again, if that knee is turning in, that means the hip is rotating in, and then it can actually lead to some twisting of the pelvis. So that doesn't happen all the time, but it definitely can be a possibility, because when you're running, you're going through thousands and thousands of steps, right? It's that constant force that we need to absorb through our feet, up to our knee, up to our hip, up to our low back. Okay, if you're not absorbing it properly in your foot, everything up the chain is affected. Okay, so that would be one way that your body compensates around a lack of movement. Another common one we see is a lack of calcaneal eversion. Okay, so this is your calcaneus right here. This is the backbone, and that's the bone that hits. It's your heel bone, right? A bone that hits every time you take a step, or every time you heel strike while running. Okay, now it needs to move out and absorb the force a little bit every time you hit the ground while you're running. If it can't do that, same thing, it's going to start to transfer the forces elsewhere, whether that be a different part on the foot, to up to the knee, to the hip, to the low back. Okay, so that's something we look at a lot, and I can actually show you how we correct for a lack of calcaneal eversion. Okay, so how we correct as a chiropractor for a lack of calcaneal eversion. First, we need to go in and palpate and feel what's happening in the joints of the foot and all the way up the kinetic chain. Okay, we also feel around the muscles to make sure there's no trigger points causing some dysfunction. But if it is truly a joint issue and your calcaneus is not moving like this, okay, so your heel bone isn't moving like this, then what we use is what's called a Thule board. Okay, so this board allows us to induce some movement into this joint. Okay, so if you can see this joint, we need that movement to start happening. So what we do is we place that part of our heel over the side of the Thule board, and then we press down. Okay, just like that, and then we push. Okay, and what that's doing is it's helping to induce this type of movement here, so that when you start to run again and you want to absorb force properly, when you hit the ground, this can kind of just roll nicely into it instead of being a constant thud, 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 thud. Okay, so that is key to proper running form. So I hope you guys like this episode of Functional Friday. We dove a little bit more in depth into how the foot functions, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments section below. If you haven't already checked out our Facebook page, make sure to check it out. Premier Chiropractic here in Minot, North Dakota, and then if you haven't checked out our website, premierchiropracticnd.com. And if you have a problem, make sure to give us a call and get into the clinic now before it becomes a bigger problem later on. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Everyone have a great day.